and Green Bay's first-round pick in each of the next 2 drafts. Parsons gets a 4-year, $188 million contract, 120 guaranteed at signing, 136 million in total guarantees, making him the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history. He went on social media, and it was pretty simple in his response. Thank you, Dallas. Go, Pack, go. So that's his side. As for Jerry Jones, here's why he thinks this makes his team better.
This trade was not just thought about today. This trade has been going on in our minds and our strategies and being talked about. It's been going on all spring. The facts are, specifically, we need to stop the run. And we haven't been able to stop the run at key times for several years. And when you have the kind of extraordinary pass rush that Michael had, then the way to mitigate that pass rush is to run at you.
Holy smokes, dude.
That's a lot of mental gymnastics.
That feels like he's like 4 years behind. Like 3 or 4, no duh.
It's tough to explain something that's inexplicable.
So
that's the problem.
So in order to stop the run, you got to trade away.
You got to trade Micah Parsons.
You got to trade Micah Parsons.
He came to the conclusion
it's like he only plays on passing downs?
Yeah.
Like, you were watching a highlight. We were showing highlights of him at the beginning of this block, and I'm thinking to myself, we spend the whole offseason talking about contract and dispute. I mean, he is so freaking good. Like, you're watching him accelerate through the whole. I mean, I don't know.
He's a game record.
It's unbelievable.
And he doesn't just do that. He was an off-the-ball linebacker in college. There are people who say if he wanted to, he could play corner. He's the most freakishly talented defensive player in the NFL, with the exception of no one.
Greeny, 5 days from today, the Dallas Cowboys are on a plane to play the Philadelphia Eagles. Brian Schottenheimer has waited his whole life to be a head coach in the NFL. He has an offense that could be playoff bound and a defense that has questions at pass rush, linebacker with the injuries to Damari and Overshone, and massive questions at corner. So to me, like, if you're Brian Schottenheimer, and Sunday, and Cross talked about this on NFL Live yesterday, Sunday is Wednesday. Like, they are in a plane in 5 days.
Yeah.
What is Brian Schottenheimer saying today to his team?
Well, they haven't had him all camp. I mean, like, they've been preparing.
But, right.
I get what you're saying, but I mean, what Brian Schottenheimer is saying to his team is not, oh God, we're in trouble. Like, I mean, they have to build it up.
But Dak Prescott came out and said it's going to get done. It always gets done.
Schottenheimer said that. Brian said that. Was it Monday?
Right.
This week? I mean, very few days ago, Brian Schottenheimer said, I fully expect Micah Parsons to be on the field against the Eagles, and we all reacted to that. You were here with me that day.
Yep.
No, he can't play that soon.
Right.
They have to start ramping up his football activity. We didn't realize that the reason he wouldn't be able to play against the Eagles was because he would be a member of the Green Bay Packers by the time that game kicks off.
This is why I go back to the moment of the Green Bay Packers loss and saying that day after, this should be a full restart. Because for him to sit there and say, Jerry Jones, we're struggling to stop the run. This has been the case for 4 years. You could have done multiple things over the last 3 years to be better at stopping the run. You draft Mozzie Smith in the first round. That hasn't panned out. But there are so many other options that you can go about. This is why I say that not a good organization right now. They're just not. Because while they've drafted some nice players, specifically on the offensive line, there's no way that you – because guess what, Mr. Jones, happens when you stop the run? Teams have to pass. And then you want a pass rusher that can go get the quarterback. And you just gave him away for the 30th pick of the NFL draft. You're not going to stop the run with that player either. And so that's why you just look at this compounding effect over the last couple seasons, and it feels they're so detached to what reality is. Howie Roseman a couple years ago drafted Jalen Carter when many teams wouldn't because of reasons that are justified. Yeah. Yesterday, they traded away Micah Parsons when no other team would have done that in the prime of his career. And we're still trying to figure out the reason why. That's the problem.
So let's try and figure out what this team now is. They go in here. I've got for B30 I can put up there. The line moved 1 point on this trade yesterday. The Eagles had been a 6.5-point favorite prior to this trade. They're now a 7.5-point favorite. So that moves 1 point there. We'll talk to Joe Fortenbaugh about the significance of that momentarily. That is a pretty significant number. But what are the Cowboys? So if we're in a division now where the Eagles are clearly the cream of the crop. You got the Commanders, who had a miraculous run last year. They've got a great young quarterback. They feel like they're on the come up. The Giants feel like there's finally some good vibes there. We'll see. I mean, of course, they haven't played a game yet. Everyone can have good vibes before the game starts. The point is the Giants finally feel like they're getting a little bit better. What are the Cowboys now without Micah Parsons?
We went into this season with Micah Parsons thinking that the Dallas Cowboys were third in the division.
Right.
Now you take a player of the caliber of Micah Parsons off of this team, they're significantly worse. We know they're getting a quarterback, Dak Prescott, who missed significant games last year. But anytime you take away a top 5 player in the National Football League off your team, I mean, we could be making a case that they could be the worst team in the division.
And Greedy, more than that, there's an intangible here. And I'm just telling you, for doing this for 2 decades, when players would come up to me and say, hey, Mike, you blew it. Like, this player leaving is really going to cost the morale of the team. And when Dak Prescott and Brian Schottenheimer and all these guys are saying, like, well, Zach Martin signed late and CD Lamb's, like, he'll be here for the Eagle game. I'm telling you, like, it is deflating in terms of the culture of the team.
This is the worst division, or worst defense in the division. This is the worst defense in the division now. The Cowboys are now a playoff afterthought. They were a playoff contending team before yesterday. They are a playoff afterthought. I would not be shocked if this team finishes last place in that division.
Yeah, I think they'll score a lot of points, right? I think they'll have a good offense, the Dallas Cowboys. But right, so the defense is the question mark. New coordinator and Matt Eberflus. I think we feel like coaching defense is something he's pretty good at.
Right.
So he's been teaching a new scheme all offseason. And again, they haven't been working with. If there's a hope here, it's that, you know, this is a group that's worked together throughout camp, and maybe some of the young players take a step, right? There's now a lot of pressure probably on their second-round pick out of Boston College, Ezeraku, right? So that's where you have hope. And also I think it lies in the idea that with Dak Prescott healthy and George Pickens added, and if the offensive line is what they think it is, they could be a high-scoring team. But I know it's a tough way to live.
Greedy, we can't overstate it. Like Dan's painting it. On offense, you're a playoff contender.
Yeah.
You have and on defense, you have one question mark after the other. It's impossible to reconcile how they comport themselves this offseason.
Well, I always go back to there was no strategy here. There was no strategy because there's 2 different timelines going on with the Dallas Cowboys. You literally, over the past couple of years, you paid the quarterback, you know, highest money in the NFL history. You paid the wide receiver.
Yeah.
And then you trade away your best player on your team?
Right.
Where's the strategy? Where's the long-term thinking and planning for the Dallas Cowboys? And that's why I made the, you know, the comparison of Jerry Jones to Al Davis, because it's just nothing. It seems like there's any strategy over there.
It's not all that different than what we've talked about for a while now with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. You sit there and go, man, this offense can go score a ton, and the defense is not going to stop anybody. And there was at least the chance because Micah was there. Now you're sitting there going, how are they going to stop people? Yeah. I go back to the game records. Like there's only so many of them in this league from an offensive perspective. There's a lot of guys who change your scheme. There's not that many guys that you know truly can wreck a football game. This dude would wreck football games. And now the Cowboys don't have that. So you think Philadelphia's tripping over this defense right now? Or the Giants? Or the Commanders? They had the one guy that would strike the fear of God in an offense. Where is he on every single play? How do we account for him on every single play? He's not there anymore. That's teams. There's nobody on that defense that truly will make you fear in that regards outside of maybe Trayvon Diggs and his ball skills.
That's the thing. Like, they have a plan for what they want their defense to look like now, right? Like, if you had made that plan in the spring and said, we're going to change who we are on defense, Micah, we love you, but it's not going to fit for a variety of reasons. Like that, you talk about being process-driven, right? This is not that. But I go back to the year they drafted him. Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator. They had a plan for how their defense was going to look. They draft this player who had been off ball, like we said, in college. We don't know what they got about 2 weeks into their offseason program, and Dan Quinn went in to the head coach's office like, we got to change everything. We got to build the whole thing around this player because he's that good. And that, I think, is what the Cowboys have to realize they lost yesterday.
All right, so the first thought that I have were the 3 magic words, take the over, when it comes to the Cowboys here, right? Because in pretty much every single game they play, they're going to be looking to outscore the opposition, and they should have a pretty good offense. So that was the first thought I had from a gambling perspective, but I'm not the expert on that. Joe Fortenbaugh is. Let's get him back into the conversation. Earlier, he gave you a sneaky little wager, could be Jordan Love for MVP, based on how good the Packers now figure to be. How about from the Cowboys side of this? What are you looking at from ESPN bet standpoint?
Next Thursday night, 6 days away, let's go Cowboys plus 7.5 over Philadelphia. If you're betting...
Stand by. Just for the people who do not speak gambling, that means you are taking the points with Dallas, which feels like the opposite of what has just been said for 39 minutes at this desk.
Here's the thing. We're not betting on players, coaches, or helmet logos. We're betting on numbers. That's how you're making money in this business. You're betting on numbers. This was 6.5 prior to the trade. You're telling me Micah Parsons is worth 1 full point through the key number of 7 in a game where he might not have even played against Philadelphia anyway. Keep that in mind. He wasn't going to be 100%. He wasn't going to play 60-plus snaps in that game. People, I want you to focus on the half point. If you're looking at 7.5 and you're saying it's only half a point, what does that mean? You're doing it wrong. If the game's 21-14 late in the fourth quarter, that half point represents a Philadelphia stop and subsequent scoring drive. It's not half a point. It's an entire additional possession that results in points. 7.5 is value on Dallas. I'll be playing the Cowboys.
Okay, so he's got Dallas there. Sometimes it seems it's the opposite.